Thank you all for coming back, staying with us. And I've had so many people ask me where I got my pants that I just feel like I want to tell you about it. I know you're dying to know, I can tell. Because I feel like I'm business at the top and party at the bottom. I'm also visualizing myself as Coach Colleen right now. At our Leadership Paducah Alumni Association banquet, Leslie Heath, who's always dressed in the coolest fashions, walks by me and I was like, I have to have those pants. So I go over to her and I say, Leslie, this may be rude, but I got to ask you, where did you get those pants? I've got to have those. Being the friend that she is, let me tell you, the store is in Simpsonia, and I know West Kentucky pretty well, but I could not get to Simpsonia to save my life. She says, you want me to pick them up for you? And I was like, yes. She picked them up and brought them to me. Thank you, Leslie. They're very comfortable. So welcome back. The moderator of our next session really needs no introduction, and neither does our guest that she's going to interview either, because they're both very well known and loved here in Paducah. But our moderator, come on up, is Susan Eberzabel. Susan is CFSB's. Yeah, give her, come on. And isn't her jacket fabulous? She showed me a picture on Tuesday of it, and I was like, order it now. So very good. She is CFSB's McCracken County Market President. She serves on the Chamber Board as our Vice Chair and has also been chairing Membership and Marketing and will be our Chair in 2025. Susan Eberzabel.
Thank you, Sandra. So our next guest truly does not need an introduction, but she's well deserving of one. Chef Sarah Bradley has done so much for our... No, well, come on up. You need no introduction. But let's welcome Sarah to the stage, and thank you for all you've done for our community. As y'all well know, Sarah has starred on shows, Top Chef, All Stars, Chopped, and we want to hear all about it. But before we get to that, I've got just easy questions. So thank you for joining us, most importantly.
I'm so excited to be here.
I know.
It's really loud.
That's how I feel too. I know.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be out here.
We know that a lot of hard work goes into all that you do. How do you do it all?
So I have an amazing staff, an amazing partner, amazing parents. I think I get a lot done by surrounding myself with really great people.
Yes. What keeps you motivated?
What gets me motivated? Oh, goodness gracious. There's lots of things. But I would think that a lot of times I'm motivated by leaving the world a little bit better for my children than the world that I have right now. So there's a lot of stuff that I do just every day in my life where I try to think about, like, how can I make it better? And I'm really honestly... Years ago, I probably wouldn't have said that was my motivation. It probably would have been like money or fame. But now, I think I said to someone earlier, having children like fundamentally changed me. And so I think that now my motivation is just, what can I provide for the future?
Well, and you've done a lot to make our community better, and so we definitely appreciate that. So you grew up in Paducah, left, moved back, starred on 3 TV shows, amongst a lot of other things. So we have a lot to ask you about. Let's talk about Freight House first. So first of all, what was your inspiration behind the restaurant?
A lot of people will say, like, ooh, where'd the name come from? It's a freight house. And so it's not very creative, y'all. We thought about it, and I was like, freight house. I had a lot of people come to me and ask me in New York and in Chicago if I wanted to open businesses with them. I could have done it, but I was just going to be like a little partner. I was just going to be the chef, just maybe the face of it. When I got home, when I started getting home, coming back to Paducah and seeing what was happening here, the whole idea of Freight House came to me, and I thought, this can be mine. It can be all mine. And I can do it in a place where I can be a part of the community instead of just like another person, just another chef in a big city. I can really try to, make change here. So I think the inspiration for Freight House was just to serve really good food to really cool people in a place that I really love.
So do you have a favorite on the menu?
Oh, I do. Right now, it's the French onion cabbage. Ooh. It's so good. So I don't know if you've ever seen me on social media. I have a very good social media channel, I'm going to say that. But I have like one like super viral video, like millions and millions of views on TikTok. And it's me burning cabbage and then people arguing about whether or not it will give you cancer. But that's literally what happened. People are like, this girl's gonna give you diabetes, this girl's gonna give you cancer, and then people are like, this is the most delicious thing I've ever eaten. It's like it's crazy. But we burn this cabbage in a cast iron skillet, and then we make a Parmesan broth, and then turn that Parmesan broth into like French onion soup. We strain all the good caramelized little bits out, and that becomes like a brown sugar caramelized onion jam. So you've got the burnt cabbage with the broth, the brown sugar jam, and then grilled bread and cheese, just like French onion soup. And you put a piece of slab bacon on top of that, and it's like heaven. Heaven.
Am I too late to get a reservation tonight?
You are not.
No. What about a favorite drink on the menu? I've got my favorites, but...
I like an old fashioned, but honestly, I just like to drink red wine. That's my go-to.
Yeah. Okay, you could have a restaurant anywhere. Any regrets about coming back to Paducah?
When I first moved back here, I wasn't really sure if I was gonna love it or if the city was gonna love me or if people were gonna be like accepting. I know my food it's not different. My food is all about nostalgia, that when you eat it, it reminds you of something that you'd had before. It takes you back to somewhere you've been before, but it's interesting and new and different. I wasn't sure if people would like that. So when I got back and I was like trying to get everything up and going, I was like, man, have I made like a horrible decision? And then I remember the first day that the restaurant served food, I was like in the bathroom, like, like you were telling us to visualize stuff. My visualization was not me being like, you're beautiful, you're impressive. It was me looking in the mirror and saying lots of curse words and saying things like, you go out there and you just show those people. And like, it was not happy. It was like, you can do the... And I think that like I went in with that mentality of like, let's do it. And so... do I regret it? No, I love the way it's all played out. I'm also moving back to Paducah now. I have an amazing husband. I got 2 little kids, and it's lots of fun.
Well, we're all proud of you in Paducah. So, congratulations on your awesome finish on Chopped. How's it feel to be the winner?
So I think we could go back to that visualization of me being like, rawr. So they take your picture. So you're there, and they call it like it's food porn when they take pictures of what the plates you've done. That's what they call it. And so they have like they call you porn. So there's food porn and you porn is when you got like arms crossed and you're like really tough and you're acting. And I was doing those things in my head again because I knew I was going up against 4 boys for the first thing. And I was like, you go out there and you show those boys. You don't let them win. You are a mom. You have a 9-week-old baby in the other room that your mother's holding, and you're like, you just had a C-section, and you go out there and you just do this. And so like in all these pictures of me for Chopped, I look so angry. Like I look like I am gonna just like destroy everyone. But that is like what, that was part of what Chopped was. It was the first round, I beat 4 boys. Then the second round, I beat more boys. So it was like I didn't compete against another woman the whole time, and it was awesome. It was great.
I love it. So our community and your family and your restaurant has lived through 3 different mystery absences and while you've been filming. Tell us, did it get easier after the first time to be away from your family and your restaurant?
The first time I left, I was honestly one of the first times I'd left Freight House for more than like a weekend. I'd never not gone. And they called and they asked, do you want to come do Top Chef? It's going to be in Kentucky. And at first I was like, absolutely not. And then my mother proceeded to tell me that it was my civic duty. Yes, no pressure, Mom, no pressure. It was my civic duty to go compete. And I was like, oh, and then I kind of like went through the process, and as it went on and on, I was like, this is amazing. I left, I was gone for 3 months. When I came back, the restaurant was better than I left it. It was just really, really cool. The second time when I went to film Chopped, if it gives you any kind of insight into, TV, Top Chef takes up a minimum of 12 weeks to tape, if you make it all the way to the end. Chopped, one episode is 1 day. So I was gone for like 4 days. They shoot them in Knoxville. I was down there for 4 days. And so that wasn't like a huge thing, and it was like, and I had my little baby with me, my second child. Now going to the second Top Chef, World All-Stars, that was a big deal. I was gone for 12 weeks, and my youngest daughter was 9 months old when I left. And she learned to walk while I was gone, and they never told me. Like the first time that I got to like FaceTime, they were like, "You're coming home tomorrow. Look at what Hazel learned to do yesterday." And she was like running, and so they kept it from me. They like didn't want me to think, which is it's great, because then I probably would have been like, "Oh, I'm missing out on these milestones." But yeah, she's fine. So. Yeah, but I don't think it got any harder. I actually think it got a little easier because I had seen the impact that shows like that could have, not only on your business and the people that work for you, but also on your community. And so I think it got easier. Plus, every time you do something, you get a little better at it.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Well, you juggled it very well. So one comment that I hear frequently in the community is that when you go to Freight House, there's so many people that are visiting that came to Paducah specifically to eat at your restaurant. I was there Saturday night, and I looked around at the license plates in the parking lot, and they were from all over. So tell us about that.
I think that the second time around, we had a Top Chef. We had like a completely different group of people that were traveling to see us. With Chopped, also, it's a completely kind of different demographic. A lot of times on that TV show, like Food Network and Bravo, a lot can be different. Also, with Chopped, it's like you don't have like a huge investment in each person. It's like one show and you move on. With Top Chef, it's like an investment. You're on for the whole season. As a viewer, you're watching for the whole season. But we have people, like just a couple weeks ago, we had a family fly in from Japan. They flew from Japan to Houston to what they kept saying was, how are they saying it? They couldn't say Charlotte, and I was like, I couldn't understand what they were saying. They're coming to Charlotte, and then they flew to Paducah, into the new airport. They stayed in Paducah for 3 or 4 days, and then they started a Southern food tour going from Paducah. So, we have people coming from all over the world, and what's cool is that they're coming to Paducah, they're buying gas here, they're staying in hotels here, they're shopping downtown, they're doing all of these things. So it really, I think it gets easier because you just see how good it can be for everyone.
You've made a tremendous impact on the economy in our area. Okay, so how many pictures do you take a night from guests from out of town that...
Never enough. People will be like, "You get so tired of this, don't you?" And I'm like, you do, but not really. It's like we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of kids. What's been really inspiring for me lately is to have, especially we saw it on spring break. We saw a lot of parents bringing their high school children to Paducah to come eat at Freight House because they wanted to pursue culinary. So, I always take a lot of time to sit down, even at the table, and specifically speak with children because I just, it's such a cool thing to have, kids looking up to you. And so, I know I'll always take a picture with anybody. I've got the smile down too. I'm like.
Okay, so America fell in love with you and your talent from watching you on Top Chef. And I know that, I feel sure that's what got you, obviously, on the other 2 shows. Tell us, though, more about how you got invited to the initial Top Chef. How does all that happen?
So a couple years ago, what year was that, Sandra, when Weta and I were here?
I think it was 2019.
So it would have been after Top Chef. Oh, yeah. So there's a very famous chef who I kind of think is the queen or the mother of modern Kentucky cuisine. Her name's Weta Michaels. She's out of Lexington. If you don't know her, find her and go to her restaurants. They're amazing. They called Weta and asked Weta, like, we need some chefs in Kentucky, because they always have like one local person, or maybe two if it's if it's somewhere big. They'll be like, who should you do? And she was like, you need to call this girl in Paducah. You need to call Sarah Bradley. So they called me up and they asked me if I would come, and if I would film a thing and submit it, and I was like, no. And they were, excuse me? And I was like, no, I'm sorry. Like, one of my dreams as a chef was to cook at the James Beard House, which is in New York City. And I said, I'm so sorry. I am leaving tomorrow to cook at the James Beard House, and I don't have time to make you a video. And they were like, well, nobody ever really says no to us. And I was like, well, if they live stream it, so if you guys want to watch me live stream, cook, you can just watch me there, and that will be my interview. And they were like, okay. And I remember my husband being like, you're never going to get on that show now. And then the next day after I cooked at the Beard House, they called and they were like, we want you to come to LA. And while I was cooking, I kind of just forgot that anybody might be watching. And so I flew out to LA. You have to be very quiet and very secretive about this. And then it just kind of progressed. And then once they finally told me, you're going to do it, I was like, man, this is really going to happen. They were like, and you leave in 2 weeks. So in that 2 weeks, I had to come up with a very horrible, I was going to say story, but it was just a flat-out lie, to tell all of my staff and for them to tell customers and get everything packed and ready to leave for 12 weeks and try to go win some money.
So what was the story? What'd you tell them?
It was the worst story ever. It was that I was going to New York City to help a friend open a restaurant, and the kitchen was in the basement, and that my cell phone wouldn't work. So if they called me, I probably wouldn't be able to answer. And they were like, for 12 weeks? And I was like, for 12 weeks, I'll be in a basement. I was like, I'll be in a basement, so if I don't answer, and they're like, well, like in the morning, if we need help with something in the morning, I was like, just check in with my mom, like, because you don't have a cell phone. When you're on those shows, no cell phone, no watch, no TV, no books, nothing. No clocks, nothing.
So did you feel just completely disconnected from the world?
I loved it. It was amazing. You guys, when you don't have a watch on your arm, when you don't have a phone in your hand, when you don't have to look at the news, whether it be good or bad, when you just get rid of all of that stuff, it's a little overwhelming to like integrate back into it. It was really nice to not have all of those things, and I think that it allowed me to just like really focus on my cooking. So yeah, it was great.
How often could you talk to your family?
The first time around, I spoke to my husband like twice, I think, my mother twice, and my dad once. Now, on the second season, they were a little more lenient because everyone, especially with having a bunch of international contestants, they all said, absolutely not, we're not like doing that. So on our days off, we would get our cell phones and we could call our family and check in on our businesses and stuff. But I mean, I didn't look at it, the first time around, I didn't look at an email for 12 weeks. It was so cool. It was amazing.
So tell us about all these amazing chefs that you met, because I bet you learned so much from them and they learned so much from you along the way.
I would describe it as kind of like chef summer camp. I don't know if we have any summer camp people, but I was a summer camp kid. And it's essentially like you're putting every person who is that devoted, like they're so devoted to their career and their restaurant and their family that they're willing to like go put themselves on TV for a significant amount of time. And so you get to be with them constantly. Sleep, eat, ride in a car, everything. You do everything together. And so I think if you were able to kind of tweak it and embrace that, like learning from each other and sharing experiences, you did really well. If you were a little standoffish and you weren't like into the whole experience and maybe like the sharing of knowledge and all that stuff, those people didn't last very long. It's the ones who really found the community that did well.
And how often do you talk to these amazing people that you met along the way?
So Kelsey, who beat me the first time, she and I still talk all the time. I'm really close with a couple of those guys from the first season. The second season, it was different because it's not like, I can't just call Sylvia, who is the potato girl from Poland. I can't just call her up at any time. She's like 11 hours different than me. You know, we have to use WhatsApp, like all this stuff. So it's a little harder to communicate. But I've kept in touch with some of the girls from the second season. But what really is surprising is the crew, the staff. Like some of those people have become, because they were off there the first time, some of them worked, like I've seen them in other things that I filmed, and then they were there for the second time, and so some of those crew members have become really good friends.
So you have said that a woman should not have to choose between having a career and being a mom, and you've been a great example of that. How does that feel?
You know, I think like if I were to float up above myself and picture how I was 8 years ago when I opened the business, sometimes, and I mean, I hate that I was like this, but I'm going to be very honest about it. Sometimes, like, someone would call out because their child was sick and they didn't have anybody watch them, and I thought, oh my God, like, what do you mean your kid is sick and you don't have anybody? Like, you have a job, you have a responsibility. I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that, like, I just couldn't, I couldn't wrap my head around it. But now I can, and so, tell me the question again, sorry.
How does it make you feel that you have been able to juggle being a mom?
Yes. So now, I've got kids, and now all of a sudden, I'm like understanding that in order to be a good business owner, in order to be a good boss, in order to be a good employee or employer, you have to have some like grace from your employer, like they need grace from me. And so I used to not be able to see it. I used to not be able to recognize how in the world does everyone not care about the success of this business as much as I do. Well, now I can. And so I think that I have changed to see that if I want women to be successful in the culinary field, I have to support them. If I want men to be successful and have families and work for me longer than it just be a transitional career and or a transitional job and actually be a career, I have to be very supportive. In the restaurant industry, for a long time, people have not been able to choose if they want to stay in it or they want to leave. And that's because the majority of the jobs don't have hours from 9 to 5. We work when you guys are off work. We work when you guys are off celebrating holidays. So, we work every weekend because that's when you guys want to come out, and we love it. But you have to give up a lot, and I just don't think that we should have to choose that. So I just decided to shift my entire mantra, my ethos as a person, just to make sure that I could support mothers and people who wanted to have families in this industry.
It's amazing. So, and I know your staff truly appreciates that. So, okay, so let's talk more about the shows. When it got down to it, to just you and the guys, you said, I'm going to fight and outcook all these boys. Do you think the guys felt that pressure?
100%. 100%. Like, yeah, I think they did because, I don't know, there is nothing scarier than a woman who wants something in a room full of a bunch of men. I'm telling you. And like, there was not, like, at some point, like in the beginning, I was like, we'll be friendly, we'll have fun, I'll cook my food. But then as it gets down, it becomes this like survival thing. You don't really want it to be that, but it is that. I mean, it's like, who is gonna make it to the end? I also think that my mentality in the competition is a lot different than other people's. So when I think about competition cooking, it's not about winning every single challenge. It is about being there to win the last challenge. That's what it is. It's not about serving the most over-the-top, extravagant dish you have ever cooked in your life that you push so hard to do that you don't have time to complete. It's about not having the worst dish. Some people hate that about my tactics of how I compete. But you guys, it's a competition, and it's probably, it's about our heads too. It's not just about the cooking. So, while I did my very best on every single dish, the one thing that I knew every time I compete is that just don't go home until the very end. And then if you've watched the shows, you see that I do go home in the very end twice. So second place twice, but that's okay. That's okay.
I mean, the strategy worked. The strategy obviously worked because you made it so far, and we're all so proud of you. So, in the last episode, Tom Colicchio obviously.
Tom loves me. Okay.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You can tell that Tom truly loves you, and I think that he really wanted you to win. And I could tell that you have a great relationship. Do you stay in touch with him or with Padma?
Yeah, I mean, not so much with Padma, but like Gail sent me presents. Like when she's like sent presents to my kids before their birthdays. Tom has reached out. You know, I've talked to him many a times. They all kind of have their different spot. Padma, very stoic, very like professional, very like this is what we're doing. Tom, I think, looks at it. I think they've all been there for so long. Now Tom, on the other hand, I think he really kind of embraces that like leadership and being like the father. Like he wants to see people do well. He wants to see people succeed. Gail is just one of the nicest people I've ever met. So they all have their different kind of personalities. Tom and I think, just really clicked. Yeah, I know. As soon as I served that plate of food, he came over and he said, "Sarah, if you had just cooked the liver a little bit more, you would have won." And I think he said that to make me feel good, but I just started crying at that moment. I was like, "Man, I blew it." Yeah, and he tweets about me all the time. He makes me feel really good. So, yeah.
I love that. So, do you know the new host? I know Padma announced that she was going to leave the show after her last season. Do you know Kristen Kish?
I do know Kristen.
Okay.
She is wonderful. I've done quite a few events with her. I know her well. She is a chef who has also competed. She won Top Chef. She has been a host on numerous TV shows, National Geographic shows. She's done all kinds of stuff. She's amazing. She is so wonderful and so smart. And she's just, I think it's going to be really great. And I think she's going to bring something different to it as someone who has actually competed. This is the first time that they've ever had like a main judge be someone from the other side.
So you talked about crying a minute ago when he said that about your liver. I hate to bring that up again, but one of the judges on Top Chef told you not to cry on television, and your quote was, "I told her girls do cry, and we should not be embarrassed about our emotions. We're powerful and have powerful emotions. It's okay to be passionate about something that brings you to tears." Crying is a tough emotion, whether it be tears of happiness or tears of sadness. How do you handle those emotions?
Well, I thought when I backtalked that judge, I was going to get kicked off right then. So we were doing this competition. I did this like challenge. I didn't do very well. You know, like Padma was kind of poking at me. I think trying to elicit some emotion, and started crying. And this other judge, who will remain nameless, but I will never forget, told me, "Sarah, there's no crying. Like, you need to pull it. There's no crying, okay, in the kitchen." And I was like, "Actually, there is." And I turned around after I spoke to her, and every chef's face was like white, like, "Oh my God, you've just dug yourself a grave." But they didn't send me home, and I think it's because, when we have to stand up for that. We have to stand up. I think it was spoken about just in the very beginning of this thing that these emotions that we have are okay, and for a long time it was not acceptable to cry in the kitchen. I can't tell you how many times I've gone in the walk-in and cried, or taken a pound of butter and just thrown it at the wall because nobody can hear it. It's soft. It kind of dense. It's kind of dense, You take a pound of butter and you throw it, and it bounces back at you, and it's just like flat on one corner, and you just put it back. They're all wrapped. It's all sanitary, but but like. For a long time, I really felt like I had to hide it, and now I can't tell you how many times my employees have seen me cry. They see me cry because I'm happy. They see me cry because I'm sad. They know that if they cry, be it a man, a woman, anyone, that they know that I will cry right along with them. And so it was really liberating for me to tell that judge, like, it's okay, this is okay, and you're wrong. And that's the old school way of thinking about it, and we don't do that anymore.
I think you made a lot of us women proud when you did that.
Thanks.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So you've also talked about the need to pivot when necessary. Do you want to talk about that a little bit more? And how do you see that in careers today?
You know, so okay. If you've ever, has anybody here ever never have you never been to the Freight House? You have to put your hand up. You have to claim. Okay, I see all of you.
Y'all are missing
all of
out.
you.
Make a reservation now.
So here's a little behind the scenes into how my mind works. I get like an old scrap piece of menu or like a torn up piece of paper, whatever I can find, and I go into the walk-in and I just like stand in a circle, like quiet, just looking around. The cooks know not to come in there if they see me like walk in with that look on my face. And then I go over to dry storage and I just like look around at what's around me. And a lot of times that's how dishes are born at Freight House. A lot of times, like this French onion cabbage we were talking about, that's how that dish came about. We had cabbage, we had a bunch of Parmesan rind, we had a bunch of onions. We have 3 ingredients, let's turn it into a dish. Like, that's how my mind works. And so that is all I do, that is my style of cooking, is to stand on one foot and pivot in a circle until I figure out what I need to do. So she's talking about the liver again. That was not the original dish that I wanted to do. I wanted to cook foie gras, which is duck's liver. It is the quintessential French ingredient. So I'm thinking, I'm in France. It will be the land of foie gras. It will be raining from the sky. Could not find a piece of foie gras to save my life. Or I could not find a piece of foie gras to earn me $250,000, we could say. So I instead of just pivoting and coming up with an entire new dish, I felt like this dish had some connection to my Jewish roots, connection to my need to show that really inexpensive ingredients can be beautiful. Like, I felt like it was just like told my story. So in my need to tell this story that I thought was so important, I lost sight of what was really important in that moment, which was cooking a beautiful plate of food that was going to win me $250,000. Like, that's what it really boils down to. So now, a lot of times, like when I'm trying to figure out something, I'm like, what's more simple? Like, let's take the simple approach and just start with something new instead of trying to make something that's not working work. And so I think that was something, that's probably the most, the thing that resonates with me the most from this most recent thing of Top Chef is like, why overthink it? Like, why am I overcomplicating this? Like, let's just try to do something in a more simple form. It's what I do every day in the restaurant, and I just lost sight of it for a moment.
So y'all may not know this yet, but if you get Southern Living magazine, there's a great feature, and I can't wait to go home and
It
check
gets
my
released today.
Yeah, I can't wait to check my mailbox. So there's a feature about Kentucky Fried Hanukkah. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes.
From one Jewish girl to another.
I know.
Let's talk.
I know. So it's a Kentucky Fried Hanukkah. It's like a 6-page spread in Southern Living right in the beginning. Or right in the middle, like in that perfect fold spot where you want. And it talks all about growing up in Paducah. I think it says Paducah 4 or 5 times, which is what I'm always, anywhere I go, I'm like, Paducah, 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 Paducah. Like, I just preach about it. And it talks about growing up here. It tells a little bit about the history of Paducah, what it was like to grow up Jewish in this community, and then it gives a lot of really beautiful recipes. If you don't know what Hanukkah food is, it's anything fried. Anything fried can be considered Hanukkah food. So this story is about fried chicken. It's about donuts. It's all fried stuff. It's about like this carrot soup that has a ton of oil emulsified into it. It's fine. It's good.
So 2 more quick questions, and then we will wrap it up. So your quote for today is, use 2 hands, you'll go twice as fast. What are you referring to in that quote?
So my kitchen is a teaching kitchen. It's very important for us to make sure that people are learning skills that they can use while they're with me and carry them on. And one of those is to make sure that people learn how to move efficiently. So I'll walk around and I'll see a chef. And they're like holding one bowl in one hand, and then they're taking the other hand and do that. And I don't even have to say it that much anymore. We just lock eyes, and they know to put it down and use 2 hands because you'll go twice as fast. I mean, why do everything slow when you can do it fast?
Makes perfect sense. Any parting words of advice for this amazing group of women?
No, I mean, I think just that you guys, like, we are powerful. Like, look at us here in this room. We're listening to each other. We're sharing knowledge. We're supporting each other. We need to do that in all aspects of our life. You know, and sometimes I need to be reminded of it, and I'm really thankful that I got the opportunity to come and talk today and to listen. I'm going to call her Coach. To listen to Coach. You know, it's parting words, just like, we should be nice. It's so much easier to go high than to go low. You know, let's be proud.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a 10-minute break, get up and stretch, visit the vendors in the back, and we'll see y'all in 10 minutes.